Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast, the first ever podcast designed to showcase Canadian thought leadership. These innovators share industry insights, entrepreneurial best practices, lessons learned, and other tips that we can incorporate right into our lives, our careers, and our businesses. So let's get inspired. Hey innovators, I got a tasty treat for you. So I've got Adrian Salamunovic on the podcast today. And I have to tell you, if you don't know who he is, you're about to find out, and you're going to want him on your speed dial. Because Adrian is the founder of the DNA11 and CanvasPop, which he actually bootstrapped to 8-figure sales and helped launch the myfax.com, which ended up getting sold to J2 Communications for over $200 million. He's also a public speaker, a startup advisor, an investor, and of course, this is why he's here today, a PR expert who is passionate about helping entrepreneurs amplify their companies. Adrian has strategized the launch and continued success of many, many, many businesses. Besides helping both his own and his clients' companies generate hundreds of millions of free media impressions, isn't that what we're here to learn? He's also a global mentor for the San Francisco-based 500 startups and is the #1 rated advisor with a 5-star rating on Clarity.fm. Now, and he's taken all of these amazing tips, and he's got a book that's being launched called Free PR, How to Get Top Media Hits for Your Startup. DIY, do-it-yourself style. And I love this book. So welcome, Adrian, and welcome.
What an intro. Great work.
Well, seriously, I have been seriously looking forward to our podcast interview for the past few weeks because I just find you fascinating. I mean, you've just helped so many companies, so many influencers, so many things. And then I started reading your book and I was hooked. I was hooked on the very first page. I couldn't believe how much practical tactics there is. It wasn't just about, theories and, stories. There's some of that, but there's really practical, tactical tips that you can take and almost become a checklist for making you successful. Is that the intent?
That is exactly the intent. I read a lot of books, right? I read I try to read at least 2 books a month. And one of the things I notice with a lot of books is you read them, and usually, honestly, most books you get compressed into 1 chapter and probably get the idea. Right. And furthermore, you get inspired, you get, some high level views of things, but you don't always get the walkaways, the takeaways, the tips and how to actually apply what's in the book. And so, the book is heavily focused on actual execution and how you can get free PR for your business step by step, and breaking down all the different processes and steps involved in getting free PR for your own company.
It's amazing. I really giggled at the quote that advertising is like sex. If you're paying for it, you're a loser. I thought that was awesome.
Well, it's true. I mean, in an era of influencers and an area of being able to, we have so many tools in our toolbox today as founders to be able to get our message across for free, whether it's over social media or traditional PR. And that quote is actually from Fast Company magazine, from an article from probably about 7 years ago. But it's true. I mean, we're not knocking paid, right? You still have to do some paid advertising no matter what business you're in. The point of the book is you don't need to hire a PR firm in order to leverage the thousands of media outlets out there that are looking to hear from you and your story. And all we talk about is how to use the media, leverage the media in a win-win way to get your business the most exposure it can for free. And that's really the whole crux of the book.
It's so cool. And this is what kind of really got me was, how is it so hard to get featured in the media? Like, what is it that we're doing that it makes it so difficult to kind of get that attention from the media?
Well, we don't think it's difficult at all. That's the whole point. It's just that you have to know how to do it. It's like anything. If you know the secrets to getting the media's attention, then suddenly it becomes something highly repeatable that you can keep doing over and over again, no matter what type of business you're in. So the book really covers the full gamut from B2B to B2C. Even if you're not for profit, you can use the information in the book to get a ton of free PR for your own business. And the secret really is to understanding how journalists and influencers see the world. And most importantly, what we focus on the book is understanding your target market. So if you understand what your target market is interested in knowing about and learning about, and then you know where they consume information, specifically which channels, which sites, which publications they go to for information, and you pitch those journalists through the lens of a journalist, you will get their attention. And that's where we talk about specifically how to craft a perfect pitch, how to target those people, and how to get your story in front of them in a way that they find irresistible.
Well, I have to tell you, your book is definitely irresistible. That is for sure, because I could not get over this. How come there's never been a book like this in the marketplace before? So that kind of brought me to my next question is, how did this book idea come about?
Well, that's a great question, an interesting story. So it's co-authored by myself and Cameron Herold. Cameron Herold was the COO of another great Canadian company called 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And so he built that company from around helped to build that company from around $3 million to $180 million. And one of the things that helped drive that tremendous growth for 1-800-GOT-JUNK was the tremendous amount of media they got. So they also got on Oprah. They were featured on A&E on the show Hoarders. They got a ton of press over and over and over. And so Cameron, actually, this book was originally written by Cameron many years ago. And their publicist came to me, and so did Cameron, and said, hey, why don't we refresh the book, update it? It was unreleased at the time. Let's get your viewpoint on it, because they heard me speaking at a conference in Utah. So let's partner up and get this book finished. And that's where I came in. So I helped to bring in a lot of the in the trenches experience that I had over the last 10 years, along with Cameron's almost 2 decades of experience doing this. Combined, you're getting in the minds of two guys that have helped build multi-million-dollar companies using PR. And it's thanks to our publisher that we were connected to write this book.
No, it's so good. It's so good. So out of curiosity, what exactly is the media really kind of looking for? Are there some hot topics that we should be considering to target? Or, how do we go about? Can you give us a little sneak peek?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, the media is a very, very hungry machine. Every day there are literally thousands of articles being published, right? So the media needs stories and fresh content. And those fresh stories and fresh content have to come from somewhere. So why not you? So when you approach journalists, you're actually doing them a favor. You're giving them a story idea or a pitch or an angle that could be interesting to their viewers. And that's all they care about. They need you as much as you need them. That's an important thing to understand that before you start pitching to the media, is they actually need you. And so the idea, though, is to understand, just as you just said, you need to understand what's trending, what's hot, and what their audience cares about. That's what you need to understand. And so when you approach a publication like Forbes, if you understand who their audience is, you understand the things they care about, and you can tie that into what your company does, that's basically the secret. And we make it really easy in the book by talking about all the steps of thinking that through and connecting the dots.
It always goes back to understanding the target market, right? It always comes back to understanding that of where they're thinking about who they're going to be pitching it to and what is that actual end customer thinking about. Not so much about what I want to send out there. It's about really what the end customer itself, what they're looking for and what they need to hear.
Exactly. And that's where we start. We start by identifying the target market, really getting to understand their needs, their wants, understanding the things that keep them up at night. And if you can understand that and then tie whatever your company does into that pain point or that information they're looking for, the journalist will always be open to hearing your pitch. And that in a nutshell is really the secret to getting a lot of media.
Oh, but you've got a lot more tactical tips in there. There's just so many little sneak peeks and secrets that you've kind of uncovered and given. It's amazing. So this book, I think, is going to need to be part of every entrepreneur, any innovator, any consultant, anybody's kind of toolkit. This is going to have to be one of those tools that are in there because it's a very different perspective using all of these types of techniques that, we hear about it, but we actually haven't thought about it in the right mindset.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we see is companies do realize that they want PR, but they often go out and hire an expensive PR agency, right, to do it for them. And there's nothing wrong with outsourcing certain parts of your business due to bandwidth constraints. We all have a lot of things to do in our business. But what I kept hearing over and over and over again is the outright frustration of specifically startup entrepreneurs with hiring PR agencies, paying them $5,000, $10,000 a month retainers, and then not getting any results. And so it was from that pain point that we decided to write this book to teach, not just startup founders, but at all stages, businesses from every range and size, how to take control of the media and PR, do it themselves, or at the very least, after reading this book, you'll be way more empowered when approaching a PR agency and understanding all the secrets in the process and how to manage them. Because just because you hire a PR agency doesn't really mean you get to sit back and just watch the big articles roll in or the big media hits roll in. You still have to be part of the process. So this book is really good for people that want to internalize PR, but it's even better for people that are considering outsourcing to a PR agency because it'll empower you with valuable information.
And the other thing I found really fascinating in your book is that, if you're going to have an internal person that's going to be doing PR, your recommendation was to hire a salesperson to be doing that. How does that, I actually thought that was kind of genius, and I'm like, wow, why didn't I ever think about that before? A salesperson and not a PR person that's from the industry?
That's right, because one of the things we've noticed Cameron and I have both hired a lot of people in these types of communication roles or outbound communications roles. What we're talking about is there needs to be a person that's reaching out to the media every single day with story ideas and pitches. The reality is that person needs to be, for lack of a better term, needs to be a hustler. Needs to be somebody that almost embraces being told no and then goes after the hit anyways, right? So the person that's out there pitching the media stories day in and day out needs to be really resilient, needs to be able to be told no and then find a way to get them to say yes. And it's really more of a sales role than it is a journalistic role. A lot of people hire people with a journalism background or people with a PR background. But the reality is those people have learned how to do things very differently. Most journalists and writers are actually very they're not extroverts, right? And so you need an extroverted person that's willing to outreach and network and do all that stuff. Secondly, if you hire somebody with PR experience, they're going to be doing things the old way, right? Writing press releases and communication briefs and doing light outreach, but they're not going to be out there hustling every day to evangelize and tell your story. And so usually we get the founder to do it at first in a smaller business, and then we get them to hire somebody once they've learned those skills, either internally or go out and find the perfect person to lead that outbound sales-like role of reaching out to the media.
I thought that was so brilliant. Like, it really was a aha moment for me in the book, because I was like, you know what, that makes sense. A salesperson is kind of like a chameleon, right? They are hungered. They are always thinking. They're being creative. They're thinking about how to make it bespoke to whatever target they are. They have that passion because they just love to hunt. So I thought that was really a great aha moment. And there's just so many other things in this book. I was just like, wow, like, it was pretty creative. That's for sure.
No, I appreciate that. And that comes from directly from Cameron's experience at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And then I applied that in my own company, the hire the salesperson role, and it worked out incredibly well for us. So sometimes things are not that obvious. Sometimes they are. But I find what's true with any good book or any good information product is all it's going to do is accelerate your growth, accelerate your learning curve, right? People will figure this stuff out in time, but it took me over a decade. And so what I'm hoping is people who read this book can figure it out over a weekend or over a few days reading this book. And if I can do that for a handful of companies, then I'm very happy.
Oh, well, I can only imagine. I mean, you've already helped so many businesses amplify, their own scale up, startup mode. So you've probably seen everything under the sun, especially geographical differences. Like you've been doing stuff here in Canada and then things out in the US. So you've probably seen a mix mash of tons of things.
I talked to hundreds of companies and not just in North America, but in Europe and across multiple verticals, because I also do a ton of advisory work. But what happens with that is by not limiting yourself to one vertical or one industry, you get to see a lot of data and a lot of great ideas from these different companies that you can help, almost cross-pollinate these ideas between different verticals. And so you can never have too much information when it comes to coming up with new PR or marketing ideas. And the more clients I talk to, the more weapons or more tools and more ideas I get. So it's definitely an advantage.
Is there any geographical differences between Canada, the U.S., and Europe or Asia?
Well, let's talk just Canada, U.S. I'm a proud Canadian, so are you. And I spend quite a bit of time in the United States. And the one big difference that I've noticed when it comes to PR is I always tell my clients in Canada and the companies I advise, like, think American. And what I mean by thinking American is it's okay to be self-promotional, right? It's okay to really promote yourself and get out there and scream out your message and get it in front of the right people. As Canadians, and I'm generalizing here, we tend to be a little bit more humble, for lack of a better term, and that humbleness is not good when it comes to promotion, PR, and all that. You have to be proud of what you're producing. You have to be willing to promote it, and people tend to look down on self-promotion. But guess what? Especially at the beginning, if you're not willing to promote yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. And so that's the one lesson or one difference that I really see in general between Canadian and U.S.-based companies.
No, that's amazing. And that's exactly where the Can Innovate podcast was born from, is because of everyone that's doing amazing things. It's just so humble. They just won't or don't know how to toot their horns. And that is exactly what it is. But that self-promotion is that if you don't tell people what you're doing, and how can they find out about you? And we need to be a little bit more, confident in being able to do that and not be scared that we're doing too much of it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Love it. So, any other secret best practices you could share with us?
Well, yeah, there's a ton of them in the book.
I know. I don't want to give too many away.
but there is one that I feel that anybody can do and try, tomorrow to get things done, right? So the first one that I really tell everybody is the foundation to having great PR is you have to have market fit, right? And if you don't have market fit and a great product, no amount of PR is going to save you. And by the way, they're not going to write about you anyways because you don't have market fit yet. You're not interesting to them until you have a market fit. And so to help with market fit, what we always encourage companies to do is start with the press release. And this is something that Jeff Bezos does at Amazon. Before any product is launched, they actually force their PMs, their product managers, and even their dev team to come up with a press release that describes the problem, the solution, the thing they're trying to launch on paper. It's a one-page press release. And the reason that they actually do it is to validate the idea and do some quick iteration on paper about the idea to try to make it interesting before they develop a single line of code. So if you think about it, if you can't make a press release interesting and identify all the things that need to be in a press release, then how are you going to create a great product? And so the press release is one of the strongest visualization tools, business planning tools, and a great tool for articulating what it is you're trying to solve, the problem that you're trying to solve on one page. And so that is, and we provide a free template, and I'll give you the link, and maybe you can include it in the show notes. It's a free template that any company can use to start with the press release. And that's what we recommend.
Oh, that is so brilliant. And it's crazy. It's kind of really smart. At Amazon, them doing, you creating that press release, it also creates that vision. Because sometimes I find that people get lost in their vision. They forget they're doing all the activities, but they forget where they're trying to go to and what they're trying to head to. So it's a great reminder. What a great idea.
Yeah, it's a simple if you want to call it hack, that anybody can do. It doesn't cost any money. We even have the free template. So there's no reason why the next time you're about to launch a product, just start with a press release. It's really, really that simple.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, out of curiosity, has there been a really silly mistake or funny mistake that someone's done and you're kind of like, no?
Well, yeah, we see them all the time. I mean, without naming names, an example is and it's not a mistake. Sometimes we have to understand that when you do PR, you don't always control the outcome, right? You can do everything right on your end, and then something can go wrong. So 9 out of 10 times, if you do PR properly, you're going to get a positive outcome. But again, you're dealing with humans, you're dealing with journalists, you're dealing with reviews. Things can go wrong. And we did have a client go out to the media, pitch a major, pretty major journalist, and their product gave them a rash, right? And so there was no way to know that was going to happen. The chances of that happening were 1 in 10,000, right? And that ended up being a negative review. We were really excited about it at first, getting this major media hit, and the journalist got, so you can't always control the outcome. So you have to make sure that you understand what to do when that happens, how to address it, and how to extinguish a potential fire like that. It does happen, but most of the time, the outcomes can be easily controlled, right? So that's one that sticks out as a minor disaster, but the company has since bounced back and learned from that lesson.
Talk about the wrong place, wrong time. Just situational. Oh, it could have been anything. Oh, poor guy, poor whoever it was. But it does bring a good point that you kind of have to think about all the different potential risks that could be happening out there, and kind of have a risk mitigation strategy for those maybe what if scenarios. The 1 in 10,000 scenarios, as you said.
It can happen. It can happen.
I just can only. But don't they always say that PR, like anytime you're mentioned in the news, whether it's good or bad, it's actually still great? Or is that a myth?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that most PR or most press is good press, right? An example, if you were to look at just an example, the biggest example I could think of is is Trump. I mean, if you look at his presidency and getting voted in, he was getting a ton of negative news. I mean, using just normal common sense, would have thought there's no way he's going to win the election with this much negative press. But that negative press, the amount of exposure, ended up taking attention away from the other candidates to the point where everybody was talking about Trump and everything surrounded around Trump. And there are many factors at play, but one cannot argue that Trump got the most media impressions out of that election, and it had to have affected the results.
That's so true. He does know how to get a good rise and an audience, and he has become quite interesting, right? So you kind of don't know what surprise is next with him. So he definitely knows how to play that media.
Yeah, the attention economy, and that's what we're in. Let's call a spade, is he or she that gets the most attention will generally win, whether it's an election or whether it's a product launch. And so understanding that we are, first of all, in the attention economy, there's a ton of companies, products, and people vying for your attention. Most of them are throwing money at it, right? Doing these disruptive advertisements that we see, banner ads and click ads and billboards and things that get in our way. Well, with all that noise, now it's more important than ever to really focus on being part of the content rather than the advertising, right? Trying to be part of the story rather than the advertisements that surround that story. Because people ignore the advertisements, but they're there for the content. And so in a noisy world, PR, I believe, plays a more important role than ever in cutting through the noise and getting your story out there. And if done right, it can be done for free.
Yeah, no, it's kind of genius, because the other thing that kind of made me laugh about, I was thinking about this last night as I was prepping for the interview. I was going through Facebook, and every time I see the sponsored ad, I tend to ignore it. I think it's because I know it's being paid for. It's kind of weird. I don't know if it's just me or there's a bit of a mind shift change, but whenever I see someone that's a sponsored one, I'm like, But then when I see my friend that talks about, oh my gosh, I just tried this out, I'm like, oh, I'm more interested and get more engaged. And it could be the exact same product that I just saw sponsored, but because it's coming from them, it's a little bit more different. So is that
a great point.
Is that a shift that's happening?
I think it's always been there, right? There's two things that people look for: authenticity and trust, right? At the end of the day, those are the two factors that are going to get you, to convince you to look at some information or digest some information, is whether it's authentic and whether you can trust it. Now, there's been a ton of fake news and clickbait articles and advertising, all trying to get you to distract you, really, and give you information. There's nothing better than word of mouth, or what we call earned media. And so earned media, PR is part of earned media. So if you think about it, a generic review on a blog post that's paid for advertisement, you're not going to have, it's not authentic, first of all, and you may or may not trust it. But if that review is coming from PC Magazine or CNET or a influencer that you trust and follow, or better yet, a family or friend, then you're going to trust it, and it's going to be authentic. And so that's another great point. Why PR, why organic PR, getting articles and reviews and things done with the media through sources that are trusted, are way better than just trying to throw some banner ads or advertisements, alone. But they tend to work well together. So you read an article, you see a tweet, then you see an advertisement, and then maybe you see one more person doing a review, and you're like, I have to buy this. I'm seeing this everywhere. And so they work well hand in hand. But earned media, PR, organic, word of mouth, that type of stuff is more valuable, more trusted, and more organic, and let's mention lower cost than the paid advertising.
This is so great. I mean, Adrian, seriously, you're just a wealth of information. In fact, I think your book is kind of like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
That is a great quote. I might put that in the book.
Done. Oh, for sure. Yes, I really think it is phenomenal. Like I said,
thank you.
I really think this book is not just good for business owners, for entrepreneurs, and so on. It's great for salespeople that really need to think about it a little bit differently. There's so much value that is being offered from many different perspectives, from management consultants, trying to develop thought leadership, insights, all of those things. Like, it really needs to be the must-have kind of accessory for everyone's kind of toolkit. So I definitely am a huge fan, and I definitely recommend it. And I'll be sharing it as part of that earned media category.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed talking to you about it.
Oh, I love it. So, Canada listeners, Adrian has been very kind, and he's actually giving us a treat. He's doing a giveaway, so you could get yourself a free copy. You can win a free copy if you enter in your email address in this link at www.freeprbook.com/caninnovate. I'll make sure the link is in the show notes, because this one you don't want to miss. So, and Adrian, finally, how can our listeners connect with you?
Well, the best way is LinkedIn. I'm on there a lot. You can look me up. My name's in the podcast. I'm not going to spell it for you. It'll take all afternoon. But Adrian Salamunovic on LinkedIn. Hit me up on there. I'm also on Twitter as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. You are brilliant, and I can't wait to see what's next in your adventure.
Thanks so much. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, everyone, for joining in and tuning in this week. Next week, you got another really cool episode. I hope you enjoyed the sneak peek. I'm going to try to do this and see how this works. If you guys are interested, like the little sneak teasers, let me know. I'd love to hear back from all of you. And don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a review. And let me know if you know of another Canadian innovator that's doing something really cool around the world. Let's get them showcased. Or if there's an innovation trend that you would like to specifically focus on. Anyways, looking forward to hearing from all of you, and talk to you next week. Cheers.